So we're going to talk about being open-minded today. For those of you who got the text, you know that that's what we're open to possibilities. I sent out the text and it just said possibilities. I was going to say the Church of Possibilities. I'm going to put a new sign up outside. Every week I think of a new thing we could put up out there. Did you see the ad? Did anybody see the ad we took out? We actually got a bonus ad. We put an ad in the Northwest Quarterly. So if you've seen it, it's kind of a big magazine that's got nice pictures and it's a quality paper and stuff. And we took this ad out. Well, it's not even distributed yet. But what they did when we took the ad out was they gave us a free ad in the weekly publication that they sent out. And I just thought maybe I can't even remember the name of it now. Do you remember, Eric, what that weekly one was? They put our ad in it with, you know. Anyway, we put a tagline on it that says, "An end to superstition." Oh yes, church with an emphasis on critical thinking.
Yeah.
Oh, we hope we didn't offend anyone, but if we did, we ask that they forgive us. Right? That's all we can do, because we're not going to change that idea. But we're hoping that it will pique the interest of some who really would like to have an end to superstition in their spiritual practice. So we'll see what happens. But this end to superstition, this idea of critical thinking, it means just to examine the ideas that are presented to us, even the ideas that run around in our own mind, and ask ourselves some pretty simple questions about them. First of all, is it true? Does it make sense? Does it stand the test of examination? Because many of the things that are running around in our heads that we just accept as being true are not. So, and we've been taught things our entire lives since the time we were children, and some of us think maybe even before that. Was there a before that? Some of us think yes. So today we're going to talk about this open-mindedness, to be open to the possibilities, to be open to the infinite possibilities that stretch out before us. This is the thing about this life that's being presented to us, is that we have all these choices. We have all these possibilities. I mean, really, if you just think about from where each of us are sitting right now, life is stretching out before us. All of these choices are presented to us. We could do any number of different things in this moment, and in every moment that occurs, there's all sorts of different things that we could do. And we ask ourselves sometimes why we do the things we do. I mean, why we made the choice that we made that ended up in a situation that we really wish we wouldn't have ended up in. But the fact is that we are continually presented with all of these choices, with all of these opportunities. And as a result of our choices, and of course as a result of the choices of others, sometimes the situations in our lives become complicated, unpleasant, suffering occurs, and then, you know, we do this affirmation at the beginning of church where we say we see good everywhere. Suffering occurs. We find ourselves in the middle of a situation where we've had a loss, where we've been hurt, where things are very upsetting, unsettled, and we say, well, where's the good in this? Where's the good in this? And when we say that affirmation, we're not actually saying that there's good in the bad situation. We're not. This is just the experience we're having right now, is that we found ourselves in an unpleasant spot. I'm not saying that there's good in the unpleasant spot. What I'm saying, what I'm trying to teach, is that there's a good choice that we can make that will take us from the unpleasant spot, and that at every moment we have all of these choices presented to us, that many of them that will lead us to a better place. Many of them that will lead us to the same kind of experience, or even perhaps worse experiences. But that's the point, that we're sitting here in this moment, and this is really this moment is where we create our life. What's the other stuff that's going on? It's all in the past, right? So that really doesn't have anything to do with creation. It's done. And then any fears that we may have about the future, that's just us like worrying about something that hasn't occurred. So it's really actually right here in this moment. So whatever situation we find ourselves in today, there may be some big unresolved issue in our lives. There may be we may have experienced some traumatic thing that has happened recently, and we're kind of stuck in it. We may have had a loss. And what I want to talk about today is that ability for us to be open to the possibility for good to come out of it. And so we review this idea about goodwill, God's will. Because goodwill and God's will, I mean, it's the same root. I mean, it really actually means the same thing. Goodwill, when we think about goodwill, what general definition would be what's best for the best for everyone. You know, that God's will is actually for good, the good of everyone. And not just everyone, but all life. So what I want to say is that goodwill, God's will, is present all the time. But that God doesn't force that on us. It's present. It's there. We can take it or not take it, but it's not going to be forced upon us. In other words, free will gives us the ability to choose between self-will and goodwill. And when I say self-will, what I'm talking about, of course, is that small self. The small self, which believes that it needs to get what it wants, it needs to protect what it has, and this really is mostly the cause of our suffering. And even when we're grieving, this really should be recognized, because this topic really does connect to those times in life where we're feeling a loss. If a loved one passes, and we have this deep sense of grief concerning that passing. If we really examine what's going on, the real pain, most of the pain, is coming from our own sense that we lost something. That it's like this personal loss. This person's presence has been like taken from us. And so even though it may seem insensitive, it should be recognized that most of our grief is all tied up in self-centeredness. And when I say self-centeredness, I'm not saying it in a bad way. It's just something we need to be aware of. That the fact of the matter is, if we really believe that we're not our bodies, that spirit is eternal, if we really believe that life is eternal, and I know that there's all kinds of doubt about this too, and I'm not saying that we're not going to struggle with that from time to time, but we're not our bodies. Our friends, our family, our loved ones, they're not their bodies either. And so when a body leaves, I have the sense that the actual entity, that the actual spirit, the essence, is okay. So if I know that my loved one is okay, what am I upset for? Well, I'm upset because I lost something, because I can't go talk to him. You know, I can't go sit down, and then if I have unfinished business, if I didn't take care of things, you know, maybe there were things between us that were left unsaid and undone, then that leads to, you know, even more suffering. But so when we are presented with these situations, to be open to healing, I think, is a beginning. To be open to healing, think about, I want to open my mind and my heart to good. Because many times when we're having difficulty, we've closed ourselves off. We've we've reinforced the fence around ourselves, really in an effort to protect ourselves from further hurt, but it actually just exacerbates the hurt that we're already feeling, because we're amplifying it within ourselves. So to open our minds and hearts and to realize that it really is true that in this life that we're experiencing, and by the way, I'm talking about life as a classroom. We're experiencing this life, and we're getting lessons presented to us every day, and the lessons are lessons that we need to learn. And also, by the way, we have a role in teaching. And those lessons are going to be repeated until we learn them. And that's why when I went in this guy's office one time and he had this sign on the wall and it said, "The beatings will continue until morale improves." And I'm thinking, well, that's what's going on, you know. I mean, I'm thinking this is what that until we lift ourselves up, we're going to continue to go through this suffering. So, to be open to this idea that there's an infinite field of possibility, and we can decide. And so, at every occurrence, we have multiple paths that we can follow, and when we try to figure it out in our own minds. It's difficult, and it's like, well, what should I do? And every decision can just be excruciating sometimes. And the point of this talk is to stop worrying about it, to stop thinking so much about it, to relax, to be in the moment and realize that there is a guide, there is a presence within us that actually is part of us, that will give us the guidance we need on a moment-by-moment basis if we can just shut off that chattering monkey mind of the personality of the ego that is continually babbling on about all of our concerns. If we can just stop for a moment and be quiet and open ourselves to this guidance. Now, many times this is a difficult thing to do, and there's another path to get to this place of being able to make better choices, and that is coming together with another person who we trust and sharing with them, a confidant, sharing with them in an open way, and then beginning from that point, once we've opened ourselves trustingly to that. Here's the function of it, the mechanism of it is that when two people come together for a common purpose, there is a third presence that is born. In other words, the two become more than two. The two become more than two, and in business they call it synergy, where the sum of the parts is greater than that total number, right? That the oneness is greater than the sum of the parts. This idea of that there's, and this is a principle that operates everywhere. We see it very clearly in the 12-step programs, and when we do a 5th step, is we come together, and it says that we are going to admit to God, to ourselves, to another human being. It doesn't say in this 5th step, it's not talking about we're admitting to those 3 things separately, because it doesn't work that way. It works that way by the 3, God, myself, another human being, coming together for this shared purpose. And the shared purpose is the alleviation of suffering. I mean, that's really what it is. So here in this church, we have a purpose. We have a purpose, and the purpose is to alleviate suffering through the practice of forgiveness. This is so what we want to do here, and this is largely what we're talking about here in this church, is to do all this internally. Many of us may have missions in life where we go out and do all sorts of work in the community, and we help people, and we do all that, and that's great. But what I'm talking about essentially is to alleviate suffering through the practice of forgiveness means it begins with me. Just like what the peace song says, let there be peace on earth and let it begin with me. So what I want to do is to alleviate suffering is first to do this work internally, practice forgiveness, alleviate the suffering in myself, so that then I can be an influence in the world to help alleviate suffering in the world. So change myself, and then... So in this process of coming together with another person, this is a powerful principle, and it will work. It's not just about somebody in a recovery program. It's a principle that will work in life. It works all the time, even though we're not noticing it. If we come together with another person for any shared purpose, a power is generated. And the shared purpose does not have to necessarily be a good purpose. When two people come together for that shared purpose, there's power in that mission. Now, it can cause more suffering, but what I like about this is that even when I am misguided, and I come together with another person to do something that maybe is not such a good idea, that even then, sitting in the consequences of my bad choice, goodwill is present. That I can choose to do something different. Not just the next time, but the next moment, that moment, right now. So, but the principle is the same, and we might have talked about this last week, but when Jesus says, whenever two or more are gathered in my name, there I am also in the midst of them. So we break it down. Whenever two or more are gathered, so two people come together, they're gathered in my name, and we remember the Hebrew tradition that the name always means the nature. So every character in the Bible that has a name, that name means something specific. And it's important because the name and what it means tells you what the story means. So if you know what the character's name means, then you know how it all like goes together, right? So, and the name was always the nature. So when you named your child something, what you were doing is, I'm naming my child this because I'm hoping that this child exhibits this nature. I'm naming the child, and you were actually supposed to kind of do this in a prayerful way, that you were going to name the child after the nature that you were hoping that they would exhibit in their life. And so then when Jesus says, gathered in my name, he's saying, come together in my nature. In other words, how I do things. When two or more come together in the way that I do things, there I am in the midst of them. So when two people come together for the shared purpose of love, for the shared purpose of forgiveness, then the power of God is generated between them and all around them. And this is really what we're talking about here, about being open to these possibilities, is when I go to my confidant, when I go to this person I trust to share these problems, I want to be open to all the possibilities that could occur. But what we have done in the beginning is we have set like the foundation of it, saying we're coming together in the presence of God, which is to say in the presence of love, in the presence of life with a capital L. So we activate, by doing this, we activate the divine in us, and we share it between us. So it is a unification. It's a pure coming together. Now, the difficulty is the ego is continually vying for attention. The personality is always trying to distract us from this calm and peaceful place. It really doesn't want to be shut off. And so it continues to present situations to us, even when we're going about this spiritual process, that try to get us off track. There's no reason to get upset about it. I mean, getting upset actually plays into the hand of that mindset. To say, just, it's okay. I'm in this moment right now. I see that I got distracted. Or, you know what? Two or more people come together. We come together for this great purpose, and then all of a sudden we find ourselves gossiping. We don't have to keep gossiping. We can decide to, and we don't have to shame our partner by saying, oh, I'm not gossiping anymore. That's it. Like all of a sudden now we put it on them, right? No. All we have to do is change the subject. All we have to do is decide to go in a different direction. So, and this is really the discipline of it, to keep coming back to that foundational idea of purpose. What is it that we are trying to do by coming together? And if you think about it, this isn't some high-minded, altruistic kind of idea. It's just, see, because whenever we go to someone for solace, whenever we go to someone for comfort, it may begin in this self-centered desire for our own whatever, but the fact of the matter is, what we are doing, even if unconsciously, is we are trying to come together. rather than be apart. We're trying to come together. So if we keep thinking about this idea of the reason we come together is to alleviate suffering, our own, our confidants, our partner, our friend, their suffering, and the most amazing thing happens. It's cathartic what happens when we really share in this open way and open our minds and we open our hearts and we share together, and what becomes apparent to us is patterns in our lives that we did not see before. Because this other person gives us a perspective that we could not see by ourselves because we have blind spots. And then the power of us coming together in this divine way, with the presence of God is with us, is both people are inspired. And as a result, there is a way to alleviate the suffering that is shown. There's a path towards healing, a path towards a new life. And then it's amazing what happens, because then it spills out. So we come together for the purpose of, alleviating our own suffering, getting through a problem, getting through an issue. And both people are blessed, and the blessing then begins to extend out to the rest of the people around us. Because things have been exposed to us, behaviors that we may have been involved in have been shown to us, and we decide to make a change. We decide to do things differently. And this is just on the surface. There are things that are happening when this coming together occurs. There are things that are happening below the surface that we really don't even realize. And what's happening is those old belief systems that told us our entire life that we're alone, that we're out there on our own, that life is threatening, those ideas begin to dissolve. And as those ideas dissolve, we are able to live in the moment, at peace,